Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 4. Hello, Amanda James.
Hello. Nice to be back.
Yes, we're back. So, we finished up the first part of her interrogation last time when she was with Detective Flores. That was on the day that she was arrested. And so, today we're going to be going over the second part. And this is the next day. So, she has spent the night in jail. And we are going to see a little bit of a different Jodi this time. She is going to be speaking to Rachel Blaney, who is a detective at the Siskiyou County Sheriff's Department. So Jodi is considered to be a detainee of theirs. It's not something to do with Arizona, even though they're working together. But she falls under their jurisdiction, and she explains that too. And so that's why she's going to be trying to speak to her. But last time, just to give a little bit of a recap, she was speaking to Detective Flores from Arizona, and he's explaining to her that they have all the evidence that they need to nail her to the wall. She's the one that did it. They know that she's the one who killed Travis. He just wants to know why it happened. And she is not budging. She is holding to that story that she wasn't there. And it's just a lot of bad luck was happening. She got lost for 18 hours and she lost her cell phone service, and it all fit just a little too perfectly to the fact that she could possibly be in Arizona, and she in fact was. So this time we're going to see a Jodi who is more subdued. And I think some of that could have to do with speaking to a female, but also I think it's the fact that she was in jail all night. So
Yeah,
things could be starting to hit her a little bit. She could have had a rough night, thinking about a lot of things.
I agree with that. And I think she was very confident the day before talking to Detective Flores that she was going to be convincing with her
Mm-hmm.
story. And when it didn't work, she spent all that time with him and he wasn't buying it. I think that sort of hit her when she went to jail and realized maybe I didn't plan this as well as I thought I did.
Yeah, because he certainly wasn't reassuring at the end.
Hmm.
She ended up going to jail. So all of that time that she spent, which was almost 3 hours, it didn't work at all. He was not budging either. So we have another 6 hours ahead of us here for this next portion of it. So I just wanted to go over a couple of things. So I was thinking after the last time that we were together that you had made a recommendation or a warning to everybody to not do something. Do you remember what that was?
I don't. I don't remember
Well, I
what
didn't
was it.
listen. I went and looked at his
Oh, the
autopsy.
pictures.
I did.
Uh-huh.
I did. And it
Hmm.
was jarring.
Yeah.
It was jarring to say the least. I think what it does, looking at those pictures, it brings Travis as a human being back into the story. I
Hmm.
think that there's a little bit of a disconnect because obviously the trial is focused on Jodi, the interrogation is focused on Jodi. They're doing the work in order to bring justice to Travis and to punish her for what she did. But I think that Travis as a person is almost removed from it because he's not there. So I think
Right.
it's easy to forget almost. He's a name, and we see pictures of him just with Jodi and with other people in obviously happier times. But he's a name that's attached as a victim. And I was watching the John Wayne Gacy series that's on Netflix,
Hmm.
and one of the victims' families had mentioned this, and it's something that I thought of as well was, you know, all the focus is on the person who did it, and they're the ones getting all the attention. But she said, just to remember, when it came to that particular case, just to remember that all those boys were here before. And so I think it's good to remember that Travis was here, and he had a life, and he was walking around and breathing just like the rest of us. And that all came to a very tragic end.
Hmm.
And
Yeah, even the
yeah.
detective, oh, I'm sorry,
No, go
even
ahead.
the detective said that to Jodi, Detective Flores. He said, the person who sticks in my mind, it will be you because
Mm-hmm.
I've spent all this time with you.
Yeah.
So he said she's the one he's going to remember.
Mm-hmm.
And he even said she's the one he thinks about every single day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, certainly. And that's his job. That's his job
Hmm.
too. But seeing those photos just really brought it home that, we see what happened in the house as far as the blood evidence is concerned. We see all those photos and we hear about what happened, and to see him, and that what happened to him is what created all of that evidence in the house is I think what brings that connection back to, I think, to see his injuries and to see what happened to him. You can see the bullet hole in his head, you can see the stab wounds in his back into his chest, and that throat wound is, I don't even, you can't even describe it really. It looks so awful.
Hmm.
And not that I wasn't expecting any of it to not be awful, but I think what it did again was it brought him back into this, and you say, wow, what happened to him is what created that crime scene. And yeah.
Right. Yeah. And it really shows the violence that she
Mm-hmm.
is. I mean, obviously it's violent. She stabbed him a million times
Yeah.
and cut his throat and shot him. But when you actually see it, you see the wounds, you realize just how angry she
Yeah.
must have been.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even the injuries to his hands too, while he's trying to save himself. They
Hmm.
weren't just little cuts or what I would think, small defensive wounds, bruising and stuff like that. He had slices to his hands.
Hmm.
And I don't know, that just kind of added something for me, for this, because obviously again we focus on Jodi, and I think it's really easy just to think of Travis as just a victim, just like in the John Wayne Gacy case, where you typically just see a list of names, and there were a lot of them, but you see a list of names and their pictures next to it, and that's kind of it. They're kind of an
Hmm.
afterthought, you know. So just like him, he actually spoke in an interview that he loved the attention, and I think she loves the attention too.
I completely agree.
Mm-hmm.
I think she loved it. I was thinking that when I was watching the trial, I think she really enjoyed being on the witness stand, even during cross-examination,
Yeah.
where she was getting, essentially called out and had her lies sort of pinpointed by Juan Martinez. I think she loved it. She loves telling her stories. She
Mm-hmm.
loves being the center of attention. Um, it's remarkable. Another thing I was thinking about when you look at his autopsy photos and you were talking about the defensive wounds,
Yeah.
you realize he was a lot stronger than Jodi. Like he
Mm-hmm.
wasn't a small guy.
Right.
So for her to be so full of and she even tries to say that in the interrogation. She's like, "Oh, well, Travis was so strong. He loved
Yes.
to work out
Uh-huh.
and he was a wrestler and he would get me in these wrestling moves and I was just powerless."
Yeah.
She's trying to convince him that there's no way little old Jodi could take down Travis. But you start to realize just how furious she must have been
Yeah.
and had so much adrenaline pumping through her to be able to overpower him
Yeah.
like she did.
Yeah, and I'm sure, of course, from his perspective, this was a total ambush. He
Hmm.
didn't have anything. He was in the shower. So there was no way for him, and I think for him to have the type of injury. I mean, they're saying that the stab wound to the chest was probably first, and I think that perhaps he was kind of stupefied, and
Hmm.
maybe he lost his balance or whatever the case may be, but clearly she was able to. So it is very remarkable that, and that's going to play into her defense too, which is ridiculous. But the fact that she was able to bring him down, and I think it was the fact that he was not prepared. He didn't know any of this
Of
was going to
course.
happen, of course, and
Hmm.
it's just tragic. Of course, the whole thing is.
Right. Well, I think the first stab wound, and I'm not sure of this, and I'm not sure if even the medical examiner could be sure, but I
Hmm.
think the first stab wound, like you said, was to the chest. And I think that's the one where she came very close to his heart, or she
Yes.
did, in fact, nick his heart.
Yes.
And of course, that would, like you said, that'd be enough to shock anyone
Hmm.
into, not being able to defend themselves properly.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it was just seeing those injuries that made it feel a little bit different.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, they're
next
grotesque.
time you give a warning, I'm going to listen to
Okay.
it. So I was thinking a little bit too of just a couple of things after the last time that we met. And I was wondering if you would like to entertain a couple of questions about a possible alternate universe where things may have been a little bit different.
Of course.
Okay. So, what if the interrogation on July 15th, she was brought in as a person of interest, and at the end of it all, Detective Flores said, you know what? We don't have any physical evidence. So the camera wasn't at the house, the palm print wasn't there, her hair wasn't stuck in the blood. There was no physical evidence there of her being around. And I'm thinking, what do you think would have happened at the end? Meaning she walks out of there. And again, no physical evidence, but he also believes her story about this crazy road trip. He's just like,
Hmm.
"Wow, Jodi, you must be really stupid." She's like, "Yeah, I know, crazy day, huh?" But he believes it, and so
Hmm.
he can't hold her for that. So he lets her go, and Jodi goes back. But of course, she did commit this crime, so that stays the same. She goes back home. Perhaps she gets involved with Ryan in Salt Lake City. Maybe they end up together. But my question to you is, do you think that she would have made her way back to Mesa to live?
I I do think so, just because I think, well, first of all, I think she would have really enjoyed the attention that came
Mm-hmm.
from being the grieving ex-girlfriend. I think she really would have loved that, to be like a part of Travis's church and community.
Mm-hmm.
I know she reached out to his bishop
Yes.
after his death. She put tons of stuff on Facebook or MySpace or whatever it was she was using about Travis, all these posts, all these pictures. She sent flowers to his grandmother
Mm-hmm.
even.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was really important for her to like incorporate herself into Travis's friend group and his church community. Like we hear her talk about Sky Hughes a
Mm-hmm.
lot and her husband,
Mm-hmm.
and they were very important people to Jodi. But I think she is the kind of person who it seems like she is kind of incapable of making her own friends, or at least keeping her own friends. It seems like she joins the circle of friends of whoever her boyfriend is at the time,
Right.
and sort of relies on him for her friend group.
Right. Yeah.
And was Ryan Burns in the prepaid legal thing?
I think so,
I
Because
think
I
so
believe
too.
that she met him at an event as
Hmm.
well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think she would have saw that as an opportunity, Travis's death as an opportunity to like grow her prepaid legal business thing.
Oh,
I think that
man.
would have been like a conversation starter for a lot of people, which is it sounds
Mm.
weird, but I could picture her telling stories about Travis and what an
Hmm.
inspiration he was to her through their MLM thing.
Sure.
So I mean, yeah, I tend to think she would have gone back down to Mesa and maybe looked for a new man in the Mormon church. I mean, we know she was looking for, towards a relationship with Ryan Burns
Yeah.
in Utah. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think that she absolutely would have ended up back there. Now she says in her previous interrogation that the one of the reasons why she left was to have some distance between her and Travis, which is 100% not true. The only reason why she no longer lived there was because she didn't have the money to. She couldn't support herself. So she had to go back home and live with her grandparents. So taking the money situation out of the equation, she absolutely would have gone back. Even if she did get together with Ryan, even if they did end up getting married, I think at some point she would have convinced him to move down there, if at all possible. I think that if she had the ability to, she would live in that house.
Oh yeah, I bet you're right. Wow, that's creepy.
Yeah, she would want to be as close as possible.
Hmm.
Because I think that, like you were saying, it was important for her to be included with his group of friends. She thought very highly of Sky, and
Hmm.
she she would have absolutely been more involved with them. Perhaps she would have become friends with Mimi if Mimi would have allowed that. Now, again, we're in an alternate universe here, so we're going to say that everyone else latched on to the story that Detective Flores bought too.
Right.
Meaning they didn't really like Jodi because, she showed her crazy. But they also didn't know who did it. The case went cold and weren't able to prove it. Detective Flores said to them, you know what? It wasn't her. It couldn't have been. I think they would have let that go. And certainly after time passing, Jodi could absolutely put on the front that she's a changed person. If she doesn't have Travis around, who is she going to be obsessed with?
Right. Yeah, it's hard to know. Like I mentioned, how she sent the flowers to his grandmother. So
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to know what she did in order to like appear innocent. I'm sure in her mind she was thinking, okay, I'm the innocent ex-girlfriend. I didn't do anything wrong. How should I behave? Of course, I'm going to be sympathetic to the family.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go to his memorial service. Actually, I think she might have missed his memorial service, or she missed his funeral,
She
but she
may have,
did
but
go to
she
one.
she did go to one. I remember her
Yeah.
mentioning that she saw. I think that it was a memorial service. I
Hmm.
believe because she was saying that she talked to Mimi. I think
Right.
there. Mm-hmm.
Right. And I think she was very interested in who showed up for that.
Sure.
And yeah, I do. I think she would have tried to befriend these people
Yeah.
and sort of take over. You know what I mean? Take
Mm-hmm.
over as part of their circle of friends, which is really creepy and horrible to
It
live with
is.
yourself knowing that. And she would talk about his family a lot. The
Mm-hmm.
fact that she sent flowers to his grandmother really drives me crazy.
Yeah.
I think that is such a horrible thing. And she goes on to say she sent her irises because her and Travis once discussed having children and what they would name their children. And if it was a girl, they thought Travis liked the name Iris. So she took that and sent his grandmother a bouquet of flowers. And it feels like such a slap in the face, you know?
Of course it is. Yeah. Whenever you see this type of behavior from somebody who actually did it, but certainly she goes way beyond. with sending the
Hmm.
flowers, with showing up, with posting things on Facebook, with being all up in it, so to speak. But and I think that that gives her also perhaps a feeling of her own self-importance. Like she's the one who did this. She's the one who's
Hmm.
closest to Travis because she took his life. And they have that particular incident together.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. So, one other thing that came up for me too was when she was talking about Travis being in a better place and that he's doing great. That
Hmm.
to me is also a slap in the face because that is something that a lot of people will say, when somebody passes away. It's something to bring comfort. And I think that that is typically something that you'll hear when somebody has gone through a terrible illness that's been ongoing, or somebody who's elderly and their quality of life has really declined. And, at some point, it's inevitable everybody's going to die. But when it gets to that point for somebody who's ready at that point, I think it is a comforting thing for somebody who believes in that to think, well, they're not suffering anymore, they're in a better place. But for somebody like Travis, who was 30 years old, who was healthy, who was just getting things started, he was trying to meet somebody to get married and have kids. The fact that that happened, that is not a better place for him. Dead is
Right.
not a better place. You know,
Hmm.
it's such a crazy thing for her to say, and I'm wondering, do you think that she actually believes that?
Well, I was thinking about it this way. So, all right, imagine that you are a religious person, like
Mm-hmm.
Jodi claims to be, and
Mm-hmm.
you believe in an afterlife, you believe in God, all of that stuff. If you really believed that and you were in Jodi's shoes, wouldn't you be terrified right now of your own judgment day, of when
That,
you, yeah, I'd be scared shitless
yeah,
of my punishment from God. So no, I
sure,
don't think she believes any of that. I
yeah,
really don't. I think that she's just trying to play up this devout Mormon
mm-hmm.
persona.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree too. I don't think she believes any of it. I don't think she believes in the Mormon faith, any of the
Mm-mm.
things that has to do with that. She was clearly just doing it for Travis. So but you're right. I didn't even think about the fear aspect of it
Hmm.
as well.
Well, because if she did truly believe it, then repentance, I think, is a really big thing. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
super familiar with the Mormon faith, but in most religions, I think that repentance is like a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to confess your sins and all that stuff and come clean. And Jodi does not. She does not care
No.
about her own conscience. She just wants to
Yeah.
save her own skin.
Yeah.
So if it was sincere, if that belief was really held by her,
Mm-hmm.
I think we would see um, a different kind of interrogation, a different, you know, conversation from her with these detectives.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. So that brings me to something else too. Do you think that she ever in her heart said sorry to Travis?
I, I mean, it's hard to say, but I would say no,
Yeah.
no, because she planned this. It's
Yeah.
not like, as far as we can see, and it certainly looks like she planned it. She went through a lot of trouble to get everything perfect, or what in her mind was perfect.
Hmm.
It's I think it would be different if it was like a spur of the moment thing, like the heat of passion, something happened and she went crazy, but this was very meticulously planned out and very cruelly planned
Yeah.
out. So no,
Yeah.
I don't think so. I
Yeah,
think she thought he
absolutely.
deserved it.
I agree. I agree with you. I don't think she's ever once said sorry in the apologetic way. She may be thinking that hey, you'd be alive right now if you didn't treat me the way that you did, if you didn't see
Mm-hmm.
me the way that you did. You know, it didn't have to be like this, Travis, but this was your decision.
Right.
Isn't that
God,
crazy?
she's
I know,
crazy.
I
Yeah, she's
know.
so crazy.
So we've been doing a lot of talking, and I
Mhm.
think that we should hear what Jodi has to say for herself.
All right,
All
let's hear
right.
it. I'm sure
So
it will be fascinating.
it'll be fascinating. A lot of lies. Okay.
Hmm.
So the first 5 minutes of this video I did take out. And the reason for that is because she is sitting in the room by herself and she's handcuffed in the front. So she's not doing any headstands or anything like that. She does start singing at one point. It was only one line and I just didn't think that there was any point in keeping it in. It's clearly just one of those soothing things that she does for herself, like people hum or doodle, like that type of a
Hmm.
thing. Um, and then and then the detectives come in and take off her handcuffs. So this is where we're coming in now. So Detective Blaney is going to have a seat and have a chat.
All righty.
You recognize that? The little recorder.
Oh, yes. That
Jodi's
Jody
like,
pointed
oh
out the day
yeah,
before.
yep, I already know about that. Look at her looking at it. It looks like from here, like she's just staring at
Yeah, she's very creepy, like in the way she moves
it.
and
Yeah.
her sort of body language. She's very like reptilian or spidery, maybe.
Oh. Hmm.
Okay. Today's date is July 16th, and my name is Detective Rachel Blaney, and I'm here with Jodi Arias. Is that how you say your last name?
Arias.
Arias. Okay, I'm sorry. This is just formality, and this is, if I have to, write up a report of what we talked about, at least I know word for word, what you said, and there's no mistakes. Okay, so it's for your own protection or good that we record it. And before we go any further, I need to read your Miranda rights again, just to make sure that you understand. You have the right to remain silent. Do you understand?
Yes.
Anything you say may be used against you in court. Do you understand?
Yes.
You have the right to the presence of an attorney before and during any questioning. Do you understand?
Yes.
If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed for you free of charge before any questioning if you want. Do you understand that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um, the reason that I wanted to talk with you this morning, there's a couple of reasons actually. I have been privy to the investigation and all of the evidence in this case, and to your conversation with Detective Flores yesterday. And there's really no, let me say this, it's obvious to me that you're not our typical suspect. You come from a good home, a good family. Your parents obviously care about you. That was evident, when they talked to him yesterday. And you're a bright girl. Probably more intelligent than you were letting on yesterday. And there's no question in my mind or any of the other investigators' mind that you were the person that took Travis's life. But what I need to know, or what I'd like to know, and give you the opportunity to do, is determine whether, you're a cold-blooded, cold-hearted murderer who slaughtered this guy, or are you somebody that got caught up in circumstances and things got out of control? Because I think that is what happened, honestly, in looking at everything and all of the facts and talking to people. Um, you know, I think in every person that anybody could be capable of harming another person. I think it's in our nature, and generally most people suppress that. But I think given the right circumstances and the right time and the right place, anybody could be capable of harming another person. I see that on a regular basis. What I generally see are the cold-hearted, ruthless types. What I don't see very often, Jodi, are people like yourself that are intelligent and spiritual and caring, and so I tend to believe that it was a incident of circumstance, if you will. Um, it looks as if this guy Travis, um, befriended you. You got into this relationship, and it certainly looks to me like he took advantage of your generosity and your kindness. Um, one of the other detectives had described him to you as a player. Um, and I don't think that that's very far off from everything that I've seen. And I don't think there's a woman out there that hasn't been treated badly or taken advantage of by a man like that. And I'm hoping, because you come from a good family and because you have a decent background, I'm hoping that you'll be smart about things and make some choices for yourself to help better your situation.
It's really interesting how Jodi, I don't think I've ever heard her be silent this long before.
Agreed.
And
Yeah.
I like how the detective came in and basically said, like, listen, we know you did it, so it's pointless to deny it at this point. We're not going to waste our time with that. Don't even bother.
Hmm.
What I want to know is why.
Hmm.
I want to know, are you a cold-blooded killer, a cold-blooded, evil, ugly, horrible killer, or did something just happen? It's like she's giving her sort of an out. Like maybe it's
Hmm.
not that bad. Maybe Travis kind of deserved it. Like when she said he was a player. All of us women have been mistreated by men. We all know what it feels like. You know what I mean?
Yep. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, she's a totally different Jodi from the
Hmm.
one that we saw before. She's, like you said, she's silent. And this detective is very much the same in demeanor as Detective Flores, in the sense that she's soft spoken. She's just talking to her, and she's not throwing anything at her. She's not playing the bad cop here. She's just having that conversation. It's reminiscent of when you see the Chris Watts interrogation and
Hmm.
they start to ask, did she do something to the kids? Did and that starts the ball rolling on his
Right.
story, of course. And I think that is what they're trying to get at here. They're trying to get her to say something about it, because,
Hmm.
like you said, they know that she did it. That part is over with. They need to find out why that is. They need to know what made you go there, what set you off to commit this type of a crime. That's just, not only is he deceased, but you killed him in the most horrific and violent way possible.
Hmm.
So yeah, she's just trying to get to the bottom of it, and like you said, trying to be like, we know what it's like with guys.
Right.
If there's a player out there, he's not going to make you feel special and all that kind of stuff. And they're saying, well, Travis was kind of like that. So what was it? This was not something that you wanted to do. So what pushed you in that direction?
I've also heard from other like more qualified people who sort of talk about police interrogations that the more the suspect is allowed to deny
Hmm.
their involvement, the more it kind of like bolsters their confidence. So they try to cut off any denial
Sure.
immediately.
Yeah.
and show them like, no, I'm not even going to listen to that. I'm not even going to entertain that because I
Yeah.
know it's not true.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Trying to steer the conversation to, you were definitely there and you did this.
Hmm.
So let's talk about that. Because then they're establishing a whole different story. She hasn't gotten to that version yet,
Right.
which is fantastic, by the way. We can't wait.
Oh, I know.
When this hits the news, um, and it'll go to the media. Do you want to be portrayed as that cold-blooded, cold-hearted murderer? Because the media loves that. That's not, that won't be our words or their words when they do a press release, but that's what, the media will take a look at the facts and that's what they'll portray it as. Or do you want to be portrayed as a person that didn't mean to have any of this happen? It just got out of hand and you're remorseful. Which way do you want to go? How do you want to portray yourself? You're a businesswoman, is that correct? Okay. And you have a couple of different businesses going, right? So you're a smart girl, Jodi. Smart woman.
I mean, she was a waitress, but
Well, the photography is what I think she's talking about.
yeah, I'm sure.
But you're right. She's definitely inflating her business sense. The fact that first of
Hmm.
all, she was completely failing at prepaid legal.
Hmm.
And I don't know what her photography business was like. But aside from that, yeah, there's really nothing as far as business is concerned. She's like, "You're a businesswoman."
Yeah, I thought it was kind of funny that she said that, and Jody's like, "Yeah, sure, definitely a businesswoman."
Yes.
Um, I think it was a good idea for her to talk about the media and how
Oh,
she's
yes.
going to be portrayed because
Hmm.
image is probably the most important thing to Jody. Her own image.
Absolutely. Absolutely
Yeah,
agree.
I think
Yeah.
they picked up on that.
Hmm.
You got to have a lot on the ball to be, your own businesswoman and balancing everything the way you do, because it sounds like you got a lot going on and a lot of juggling and balancing. You're obviously very organized, well-read.
I would say well read, but not organized.
Not organized? Why so?
I think that's interesting that she's talking about the organization and lack thereof for herself. I think that plays into her story of, I could never have done that. All of those shenanigans that you're saying that I was up to were actually just coincidences. And I didn't purposely turn my cell phone off. I didn't lie about this road trip that went completely off the rails and I was driving back and forth for almost a full day. I don't have the ability to do all that, and then leave out of a crime scene like that completely unscathed and drive away without anybody knowing.
Hmm. Yeah, I didn't even think of that. I guess I thought she just likes to ramble about herself,
True.
but that was pretty clever of her. No, now I agree with that. I think that that could be why she made it a point to, to let her know, actually, I'm not really that organized. I don't really keep on top of things all that much. That was really clever of her to do that,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah, I think, well, when you consider too the other aspects that she will downplay herself. She certainly did that with the physical strength that's going to be coming
Hmm.
up, and then also her intelligence, and that's something that's going to be really important to her. She's wants to be the smartest one in the room, but not in this case.
Hmm. Right, of course. And with her anger too, she downplays her. She
Yeah.
goes on and on about how, like, oh, I just get sad. I don't get angry.
Yes.
I cry. I don't
Hmm.
yell. Like, I don't
Yeah.
really have it in me to be full of rage. And someone who did this would have to be so angry and so full of rage.
Yeah, exactly. And she had to think all the way back to when she was a freshman in high school to when she really lost her shit.
Right. She kicked a dog with her right foot once.
Yeah,
That's
didn't
the only
even
time she
yelp.
can remember being
No,
angry.
no, never saw Doggy Boy. I
Poor doggy boy.
know.
I just, I procrastinate so papers pile up and things don't get filed on time and I lose stuff. And then I find it later when I don't need it anymore. When I do need it, I can't find it. So
Okay.
just general stuff like that.
Well, maybe you're not as organized as I had thought. It's
Well,
certainly
I
human.
try. I mean, I go through these periods where it's like today is devoted to organization, and then I'll get organized, and it'll be that way for a little while, and I'll kind of let it slide, and then I'll have to go back and clean up again.
All right. So I think that the reason you're here is I think that you should have just at least one more shot at the opportunity to do the right thing. You say that you're spiritual, or those are my words, not yours, but that's certainly what I got out of reading everything and looking at everything. That you have some sort of relationship with God, or some sort of deep spirituality, and so did Travis. And it sounds like you cared about what Travis's family thought of him, maybe what they thought of you. I don't know whether you ever met them.
I met his grandmother a
Okay.
few times.
Were they good people?
And I didn't meet his family at his services, but I saw some of his sisters, and he talked about them a lot. And he talked about how proud he was of all of his brothers and sisters, because they come from a rough background, but they've all done really well.
I would imagine that keeping all of this in, I can only imagine because I've never been there myself, but I can only imagine that keeping all of this in is just tearing you apart inside. It's not hard to tell that. You have portrayed yourself as being very strong, but you can see it in your eyes, Jodi.
It's not like, it's not that I'm in my dad said that Detective Flores told him that I was just cold yesterday. And it's not that I'm cold, I'm just resolute. And it's not that I haven't cried, it's all I've done for the last month. And I've got to go to work part-time, and at my job I need to be a happy, cheery person. So I've got to suppress all of that and put on an act while I'm on the clock. And if I'm going to get any more clients for my business, I've got to be an attractive person in my personality. So it's not like I haven't been grieving him since I heard about him.
Well,
Do you think that she was sad, or do you think that she was scared?
Um, After killing Travis, oh, I think she was scared.
Yeah.
I don't think she was sad for a moment. I
Yeah.
really don't. It goes back to what we were saying earlier. I think she thought that Travis deserved it.
Yeah. And if she was sad, then I think it would have to do with how it didn't have to be that way if only he wasn't the way that he was.
Yeah, I agree. I think maybe it's, oh, I missed out. I could have married Travis if, if, like you said, if he wasn't the way he was, if he thought I was good enough, we could have been happy together. And maybe there was some sadness for that life that was lost. But as far as Travis, like not wanting to be with her
Yeah.
and wanting to move on and marry someone else, no, I don't think she was sad for ending his life at all.
Yeah. Could you imagine the side eye she was getting at his services by his friends, family, everyone?
Yeah.
Because everyone suspected her, literally everyone.
hmm Yeah, everybody that the detectives talked to said, you need to look at Jodi. Something is up with her. She is definitely capable of doing this.
Yeah.
And you think that she would be perceptive enough to pick up on that, like
Right.
that attitude from everyone around her.
Right. Right.
I feel like for a normal person, it would make you so uncomfortable that you wouldn't even want to be around that.
Yeah. Yeah, I
But
agree.
not
I
Jodi.
would I would imagine you wouldn't want to for that very reason. But I think
hmm
also she had to go, because if she
Right.
didn't, then she's probably thinking that makes you guilty. That's
Right.
something a
Maybe
guilty
that's
person.
Yeah, maybe that's why she missed the funeral or whatever event it was that she missed. She had this big long story about how she got a flat tire and
Hmm.
she missed her flight, and it was so early in the morning she couldn't get her tire repaired or
Hmm.
something. She had some big long crazy unnecessary story. And I wonder if she kind of concocted that just because she was uncomfortable at the funeral, knowing that everyone was, looking at her, like you said.
Yeah, maybe. And maybe it would have been too much because his body would have been there.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
maybe,
true.
yeah.
You have an image. I understand that. You have an image to uphold and you have to portray, that you're a together, savvy woman, not somebody who's fallen apart. So that's understandable.
I
But
fall apart when you aren't looking, and when it's at night and I go to sleep. Travis always used to call me, not always, but very frequently. So that's the hardest part is when I go to sleep at night. And if he wasn't calling, then I just call him. And sometimes I would just call anyway to just hear his voicemail.
so let me go back to, the choices that you have, because again, there's no doubt in anybody's mind what happened that day. There's no doubt that you were involved that day that Travis died.
Listen, I know that I wasn't involved in Travis's death.
Okay.
Um, and
But hold on, what you need to decide is, do you want to be portrayed as that cold-blooded killer?
oh, that's what I was getting at.
Or do you want to be portrayed as somebody that was taken advantage of and, things just one thing led to another? You thought your relationship was headed in one direction and it wasn't, or, I don't know exactly the circumstances because I wasn't there. But I would certainly think that it's to your benefit to appear as this is something that just happened. You didn't plan it. It was, it was a heated moment, and you didn't mean to hurt him. Because you didn't mean to hurt him, did you?
I've hurt him very much emotionally, and I never meant to hurt him.
Okay.
He said that
So,
I hurt him more than the death of his father.
And I believe that. How are you going to come clean with yourself, between you and God, if you can't even, look his family in the face and show remorse? I don't think that you're a bad person. I don't think that you meant any of this to happen. I think that things got out of control and you didn't know what to do and you panicked. And I would certainly like your parents to see that, your friends to see that, instead of the cold-hearted killer that the evidence is screaming to show. And this is, at a certain point, you gotta do what's right. You gotta make things right for yourself. Because otherwise it's gonna eat inside of you. You're gonna be sitting in that cell with all of this churning inside of you, and it's gonna eat you up. And just because I'm a cop doesn't mean that I don't care, about humanity and people. I'm not sitting here judging you. I'm trying to help you out. I'm trying to give you a chance to make things right. Show the families that you do have some remorse. I'll apologize for the things that you've done if that's what makes you feel better, whatever it is. But when you continue to deny when it's obvious that that's not the case, you appear to be the cold-blooded killer. And the media is going to feed off of that. When this goes to trial, the media is there. It's not kept secret. Do you want to be out there and like the O.J. Simpsons? Because nobody felt sorry for him. Nobody respected him afterwards, even though he maintained, his innocence. How do you want to be portrayed? Do you want to be portrayed as the person that you are, a decent person who's had some tough times and just didn't make the right choices at the time? Or do you want to be portrayed as a person that doesn't care about anybody or anything?
Of course I don't want to be portrayed as a cold-blooded murderer. That's...
I believe that. I believe that everybody wants to tell the truth, because to keep that lie in tears you up emotionally, physically, mentally. I see that over and over and over again with people. And I believe that you don't want to be portrayed in the negative light that I've already... And I'm not making that stuff up. I mean, that's just reality, Jodi. That's the way our society works. That's the way this world works. And things are going to start moving real fast here for you. This is kind of a pause, before things, start getting heavy. This is your opportunity to help yourself out. When the jury looks at it, those are the things that they're going to be mulling around in their mind when they decide what type of sentence to hand out.
I always thought that was interesting when you would hear in interrogations, help yourself out. Help yourself out.
Mm-hmm.
When it seems like there's nothing they can do to help themselves out because they're already guilty in the minds of the detectives, and clearly it's assumed that that's what's going to happen in court as well. They're already guilty. But I understand what she's saying now as far as the jury is concerned. If she, because she's up against the death penalty.
Mm-hmm.
And so if they're thinking that she doesn't give a shit, she's just cold-blooded and that's it, then they're going to be more likely to just throw the death penalty at her if that's what they're
Mm-hmm.
going to do. So I get now what they're talking about when they say help yourself, because it does come down to the jury, because they're the ones who are ultimately going to decide.
Yeah, I agree. I think she's trying to convince Jodi, like you said, that it's better to have an explanation
Mm-hmm.
and honestly kind of put some of the blame on Travis is what I'm getting out of it. Like, what did
Yeah.
he do to provoke you to do this? You're
Mm-hmm.
not just cold-blooded. You didn't just kill him for no reason, right?
Yeah.
We need to know the reason. But yeah, it is funny that she says help yourself out, because the only thing Jodi can really do to help herself out is not say a word and get a lawyer.
Get a
And the
lawyer.
detective knows that. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, she even got the Miranda rights again at the beginning of this. And
Hmm.
she's like, all right, let's go. I
See,
understand them
and
all.
Jodi, yeah, she's smart enough to know that the detective isn't actually trying to help her. She's just trying to get a confession.
Hmm.
But where her intelligence is lacking is where she thinks that she can come up with a convincing story that she didn't do it.
Yeah.
Like that, no, no, no. You should have been quiet from the beginning, got a lawyer. Don't try to convince them. You're not going to convince them of anything.
Absolutely. And I think anybody in that position is going to be facing the same thing, even if it's
Hmm.
for something much less than murder. But if they're asking you these questions, you need to be scared. You
Yep,
need to
you're
take those
already in
rights
big
very
trouble.
seriously. Yes, because
Hmm.
they're experienced and you're not. They know what they're doing. They know how to ask the questions to get the answer that they're looking for, hopefully.
Hmm.
And if you don't have somebody on your side who's going to be able to advise you of what's going on, because you're just a person sitting there who's going to be scared. A ton of things are going to be running through your head, and they're all set. They're just checking boxes as they
Yeah,
go.
and they'll use everything and anything you say against you. Even the smallest like inconsistencies in your
Mm-hmm.
story, they'll use them to discredit you and
Sure.
basically say you can't believe anything this person said. Look, they said this
Mm-hmm.
at one point and then they contradicted it at another point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, like you said, they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And the average person sitting across from them doesn't.
Exactly. Yeah. But Jody's like, it's good.
Yeah, well, she's smarter than everyone,
Sure
or so
is.
she thinks.
Yeah.
Or when they make a recommendation to the judge. Those are the sorts of things that turn a jury. And the juries sometimes can be fickle, but I've never seen a case with so much concrete, hard evidence. We don't need you to tell us anything. I'm doing this for you. Arizona's case goes no matter what. They've got a rock solid case. So what you say is basically irrelevant to their case. Not irrelevant, but it's not going to make it any better for them. But it certainly can help you out.
How can it help me? I mean, how can what I tell you today affect the media?
Um,
Well, there you go. There's her concern for the media and how she's going to be
Mm-hmm.
portrayed. Yeah. Instead
Yep.
of, how is this going to affect my case, or I didn't do it. Any of that. She's just worried about. I mean, she's 5 seconds away from asking when she can have interviews and if she can do her makeup beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
you take control of the situation as much as you can and paint whatever kind of picture you want to paint of yourself. Nobody's going to believe that you didn't do it after they see the evidence. It's just, it is what it is. But it's a matter of, do you want to take control of your situation and paint the picture of who you are, because you're the only one that knows that? Or do you want the media to take the evidence, all of the facts and the information, and paint their own picture of you? And as smart as you are, you know as well as I do that the media doesn't like to paint warm and fuzzy pictures. They would much rather paint the vicious, cold-blooded killer, because that sells. Am I right?
Do you think this is why she did the media interviews? Like this part of the conversation with this detective? Because I could picture her thinking to herself, well, that's okay. I'll paint the picture for the media and I'll I'll send across this image that I was Travis and I were, we were such good friends. We had this wonderful relationship, and I'll talk only about all the positive things about Travis. And
Mm-hmm.
look at this girl. She loves Travis so much, she couldn't have killed him. What an innocent, sweet, well spoken young woman.
Yeah, exactly. She's going to be able to control the story. I think is what
Hmm.
she's thinking. So you're right. I think that that very well could have played into her wanting to. I think, of course, her own need for attention and the fact that, you know, Access Hollywood and whoever is calling to talk to her, she's gonna love that.
Yeah.
She's the big news in jail.
I know.
As
She must have felt like such a celebrity
I think
getting
she
in there,
did.
being able to put on her makeup in front
Yeah.
of the camera.
Yep. Yep, I think she did. And she was so cocky about it. Certainly when she said that
Hmm.
no jury will ever convict her. She was so cocky about that.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, so her being able to go on camera and not just have the shows portray her in a certain way and have their music behind these pictures, covered in red, or however they would dramatize her story and making her look like a monster. That was very important to her, to make sure that she
Mm-hmm.
didn't. If she comes on here and she just talks really sweet and quiet, and like you said, she talks about all the positive things with Travis and how she's mourning him too, then that's going to make the rest of us, because we're all stupid, is to
Right.
say, "Oh, no, she's not guilty. She could never do that. Look at her."
Oh, that's what's funny. It's like with the Chris Watts media interviews, they totally backfired. She just ended up looking like a complete psychopath.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, don't get me started on his
Yeah.
interview there,
Uh,
but certainly with the same thing with her is, just like the detective said, all anybody has to do is look at the evidence and you're guilty.
mhm.
They don't need you to say anything. It's already done. Everything's going to move quickly at this point. Boom. And it didn't, because it took several years. But, the fact is that, it was all out of her hands. She didn't have any control.
No, you're right. The evidence speaks for itself. But during her media interview, when she told her insane story, which we'll come up to later in the
Yeah.
next part with Detective Flores, she
Uh-huh.
has her really ridiculous story about what happened to Travis, and she
Mm-hmm.
decided, spur of the moment, to tell that on national TV. Her, I
Right.
don't know what she was thinking.
Yeah, that's going to be a really interesting one. Really interesting.
Hmm.
So, do you want to control your situation, paint your own picture, or do you want to let somebody else do that for you?
I don't feel like I have any control over what the media says anyway.
Well, you do to a certain degree. You can have the opportunity to tell your side of the story. Was it a matter of, like I said, this guy Travis building some sort of what you thought was some sort of relationship? Were you hoping for marriage? Because I've heard a lot of talk about possibilities of marriage, and I know that is a cornerstone of your faith is marriage and family. Is this something that you were hoping for? Was he leading you down that path? Did he take advantage of you? Um, were there promises made that were broken? Did he betray your trust in some way? I don't know. Only you know that. But certainly, if that was the situation, they would look at you in a better light than if you just went in there and just killed the guy just because you're a cold-hearted person. The reasons why are what's going to give you a better portrayal, a better light that you're portrayed in. That's why the reasons why are so important to you, and that's how you can take control. When you leave, Siskiyou County and go back to Arizona, which eventually you will, whether you fight the extradition or not, that's just kind of
An inevitability.
yeah, it's going to happen eventually. You're not going to have the opportunity to do this again. And I'm certainly, not going back to Arizona. I won't have the opportunity, and the shot will be gone.
What is your role, though? I mean, you're a detective.
Mhm.
Um,
This is our jurisdiction. It's our county. So, part of this investigation, if you will, is on us. So I've taken an interest in this case. I saw you and I read all this information, and I'm like, man, she's not the typical person that we see in here.
Can I ask you a couple questions?
Sure.
Not personal questions. I know I understand they took some of my stuff yesterday.
Mhm.
Where does all that go? Does it go to Arizona?
It'll be transferred to Arizona. It's held in evidence. There's a list of everything that was taken, and a copy of that was left at each
Location.
at each
And
location.
it was a carbon copy, so my parents couldn't read it all. My grandparents couldn't read everything. They told me some of the things, and some of the things were like my camera, for example, which is fine. I understand that. My concern is other people. For example, I'm a wedding photographer, and I just did a wedding on Friday, and I feel bad for Brian and his wife Katie because those are their wedding pictures. It's all they have for their wedding, and I just want to know when they'll be able to get their wedding pictures.
I don't know when. I don't know how, this could go on for
That's
quite a
the
while.
only thing they have to remember the day.
They're not going to destroy the wedding pictures. They're not going to get rid of them or anything like that.
And
I don't think I would want those pictures.
Oh man, I know. Wouldn't that suck?
I mean, every time I look at him, I'd be like, you know who the photographer was? I wouldn't be
I
able to get it
mean,
out of my mind.
right. I know, but that really sucks because they're kind of, it's kind of a big day and
Of
you want to
course.
remember
Of
that
course,
day.
definitely. And then, yeah, thinking about how the reason you don't have the pictures is because your photographer was a murderer.
Right. Thanks a lot, Jody.
Yeah,
What's
Jody.
interesting is that she took that job after I mean, I know she had to keep up appearances,
Yes.
I guess, but
Hmm.
still, I mean, you just slaughtered a man and now you're going to go take photos of a wedding, like this beautiful, happy day
Yeah.
between a couple.
Yeah. Yeah. Why not?
Man, she's crazy.
Yes.
And her talking about other people and talking about, oh, I want to help these people. I care so much about them.
Hmm.
Again, I think that goes to her, how important her image is to her.
Hmm.
And for one, I think she's trying to convince the detective, see how much I care about other people. I
Yeah.
love people so much. I'm going to sit here and cry over some wedding pictures.
Hmm.
But I think her image in the eyes of people back home was still very important to her.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely. She's very caring.
Of course.
just take pride in my work, and I guess I'm not gonna have a chance to edit them and make them really beautiful. Like, they already turned out really good, but like
I'm a great photographer, so they came out really well, but I'm not going to be able to do the final touches. But they're still beautiful because I'm really great.
I
But
mean, no, Jody, you're not going to be able to edit them. You are in jail for murder. Like, get over it.
and that's the
It's
real
not,
bummer here. That's the real bummer is that those
yeah, I
pictures can't
can't,
get edited.
right. I can't Photoshop them and make them really magical.
Hmm. They're
Like,
just going to be semi magical at this point.
I mean, you have bigger problems, Jody, than caring about editing some wedding
Listen,
photos.
she's really upset. Okay.
Photoshop, I just do all kinds of neat effects, and they turn out like magic. And so that won't be the case this time, but at least the hard files are there for them. And if they're not going to get them forever and ever, it's going to suck for them. But as long as they get them eventually,
They'll get them eventually.
and also
I think that, go ahead.
my sister, I don't know what her problem is. I mean, she's far less messed up than I am, I guess, but she's in a program right now in Klamath Falls for till the end of August, rehabilitating from something.
And she doesn't know what that is. This is her sister who's in rehab, and she's like, "Oh, I don't know. It's for something, I guess."
I don't know what her problem is. It's it's so strange that she's so concerned about these pictures.
Mm-hmm.
That's like her biggest issue right now. I honestly, I think that would be the last thing on my mind.
Yeah,
Getting pictures to
definitely.
my friends and family.
Right.
Like everybody knows the justice system works slowly. So I think it's safe to assume that they're going to hold on to that stuff for a long time. You're not
Yes.
getting your camera back or anything, computers, anything like that. Like you
Yeah.
can say goodbye to it for several years at this point.
Yeah.
And it's weird that she's talking to the detective about this. Like the detective gives a shit
I
or
know.
is in a position to help her.
I know. Oh my gosh, the wedding pictures. Yes, we'll definitely get those right away. And the same thing for your family. We'll get all of the photos taken care of. That's really important.
Right. If anything, these would be questions for her own lawyer, which she
Hmm.
doesn't have at this point because
Yeah.
she's a dummy. But these detectives don't care. And you think she
No.
would realize that.
Right, exactly.
And my mom, we write her. We only get to talk to her once a week, and my mom is going to send pictures because I have on my external drive. I have a bunch of pictures of her and I that we just were doing this with, just taking pictures of each other on her prom night because I helped her do her hair and I helped her, just take pictures, and then I dropped her off, and she just wanted some of those to have. If she's all done up glamorous, and she's like, I can't remember what I look like without makeup. And I did a photo shoot with my little brother last week, and they turned out really good, and she wanted those pictures too. She doesn't have access to any of them now. And those are all family treasures. And I did that, of course, because it's for them, and but I would have made her a CD, but my CD-ROM just wasn't working right, and I just didn't get around to making it because I didn't have the proper tools to do it. And she just wants those to mail to Angela.
Well, see, these are the sorts of things that, paint the picture of a good, decent person where things just went a little wrong. You showing so much concern and care.
Do you know what happened to my journals too?
I wasn't there when
I know they said they took one. I don't know if they took my other ones
Where were your other ones at?
in my fireproof safe.
Okay.
Her what? I didn't catch what.
I thought she said fire. I thought it was fireproof safe, but
Yeah, but what was in there? Do you remember? I think she
oh,
says it again.
her journal? Is that what
Her
she's talking
journals,
about?
yes. Yeah, it's her journals.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm not sure. They have a hard copy, an actual copy, an original copy. That
If you
they
want
can
my
look at.
journals, it documents the entire time starting from when I moved to Arizona up until 2 or 3 days ago.
Where's that safe at? Is that
It's
at your?
under my bed. They said they looked
Oh,
through
okay.
it.
Okay. Well, then, if there was anything,
I don't know if they felt
they
it was
felt necessary.
relevant, but
Oh, they're going to read every single page.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one.
And obviously she was smart enough not to write anything incriminating in any of her journals.
Right. Dear Diary, I can't believe I killed Travis today. OMG. Anyway,
Love Jodi.
anyway, I got this new job. I'm going to be doing a wedding on Friday. So that's going to be
Hmm.
great. I really look forward to that. And also, my sister's in rehab. I don't know what for. Maybe I'll
I
find out
want to
at
know
some point.
why.
Yeah, exactly.
Things are going okay with Ryan Burns, except he kind of thinks I might have murdered Travis, so that's kind of
Yeah.
putting a damper on our love life.
Yeah, but we don't really talk about that because ugh.
Because, ugh. I know. That was one of the funniest parts of that interrogation.
I know.
We try not to talk about it because it's like, ugh.
Anyway, TTYL.
I'm sure Travis got a lot of ink in my journals. I don't know. It doesn't matter now because I know you guys think what you think, but
It's not, the job of the detectives, any detective, is to determine, what happened, whether a person, is there evidence that would clear you, evidence that would convict you, etc. We're totally neutral going in. And it's not a matter of, our opinion and what we think. It's a matter of taking a look at all of the evidence and knowing. And, I think you're not grasping the reality of this situation. And hearing, what your concerns are, you should be concerned for yourself right now. You should be fighting for yourself. This is not going to go away anytime soon for you, Jodi. You're a young woman, just starting your life. You had a lot going for you. You should be fighting for yourself right now.
There's really nothing to fight for. If I fight, it just makes
If
me
you
look
fight-
worse.
If you fight,
And if I give you some false confession, that just makes it look just as bad.
No,
so
we
there's
don't-
really nothing.
we don't want a false confession. That's absolutely not what anybody ever wants, ever. I was just hoping to give you the opportunity to show the world, to show the community, to show the jury, to show Travis's family that you do have a heart, that you do care, that you are a good person. And maybe things went askew that day. I'm giving you scenarios with what happened that day because I wasn't there. I don't know, the emotions that led up to it. There was obviously a lot of emotion. That's very clear. There was a lot of emotion that day in what happened. And so I'm trying, it's kind of like pulling teeth here. I'm trying to give you the opportunity to help yourself. To show the world, to show the community, to show Travis's family that you do have remorse, that you are a good person. And that doesn't benefit me in any way. I get no benefit out of this. My job pays the same whether I'm sitting here or at home, whatever. I was trying to give you that opportunity. And I asked if I could talk to you today to do that. Makes no difference to me. Not personally, but it sure can make a difference for you. And you let this eat at you, and it's going to destroy you or change you in a way that you wouldn't want. And it comes a time in somebody's life, there's always a pinnacle in somebody's life where you have the opportunity to define who you are. Do you want the murder of Travis to define who you are? Or do you want to take control of that and do it yourself? Everybody makes mistakes, some bigger than others. And I think this is the time in your life. I'm trying to tell you, this is the time, Jodi. This is the time to take control more than you've ever done before. And at least show the people that you love and care about that you have remorse and that you have a heart. Because when they sit there and they see somebody that's just stone cold and saying they didn't do it when it's clear to everybody that you did, that's what they're going to see, is a stone cold person. This is your opportunity to change that. You can't change what happened. You can't go back and undo it. It's a done deal. But hopefully you're smart enough to realize that you can have a little bit of control of how you're portrayed. I don't think that you're a bad person. I don't think that you meant to hurt him. I think that you really cared about him and that you loved him. And that's why there was so much emotion in that day. I'm not sure of the circumstances, the conversations that led up to it. I can only see the result. I think that things got a little heated. You were angry or upset or disappointed, or betrayed, whatever the emotion was, and things got out of control.
We both have betrayed each other, but it was so long ago, the last time we even talked about marriage on a serious level was when we were still dating over a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And the last time he proposed to me once, he proposed to me a lot of times, but he wasn't always serious. He just kind of said it, marry me, as a joke.
And how did that make you feel when he said marry me as a joke? I mean, did you want it?
Not after we had broken up. It was kind of like laughs. Like, it's really kind that he would joke like that. We would laugh, you know, and I took it as a compliment because it's when I did something that maybe in his eyes he saw me as a good person, and so he'd be like, "Wow, this is a good girl, marry me." But it was more of a compliment. It wasn't a serious proposal.
But that's what she really wanted.
Of course, yeah. And she talks about that. She mentions that a few times. That, oh, he proposed to me a lot, but he wasn't always serious. Then he didn't really propose to you,
Right.
you know?
Right.
So
And
it doesn't count, Jody.
I think because that was something that she ultimately wanted. She wanted to be worthy enough for
Hmm.
Travis to want to marry her. Maybe she wouldn't have really wanted to marry him, but I think the worst part of it all for her is that he didn't want to marry her.
Yeah, and I mean, I can see how that would make anyone feel kind of bad about themselves. You know, like,
Sure,
okay, I'm,
absolutely. Like I'm okay to come over and have sex and to do
hmm
all of the things that you want to basically be your fantasy. But
hmm
that's only behind closed doors. That's at night. No one can ever know. You can just come over here
right,
when no one's around. You know, a booty call. That's all
exactly.
that she was. And she hated the fact that he was looking elsewhere to have something serious. And so, sure, it's understandable that that would be a huge blow to the ego. Be like, well, what about
Hmm.
me? What's wrong with me? Why can't we have more of a serious relationship? Why is it okay for us to just have a physical relationship? Why don't you want anything serious?
Hmm.
But people move on from that kind of stuff. They don't say, "Well, you must die now.
Right.
I'm going to come up with
Well,
this whole plan to drive undetected, or so I think, to in order to make that happen." It's such a, I mean, obviously it's a testament for who she is as a person, but it's so crazy that it ever had to go this way. And I'm very curious about what that those conversations were like, because it sounds to me, according to how that day played out up until obviously it went bad, it seemed like a normal day for them. They spent it in bed. They were looking at photos that they took of each other and videos or whatever. It was kind of their normal interaction.
hmm
So I'm curious about what that conversation was like. And I remember when you pointed out too, because I didn't know about this, the photo of him looking at the camera when he's in the shower,
hmm
that was the moment that perhaps she took the knife out or was making that type of a threat if she had the gun with her. She obviously had it somewhere, but maybe that's where she was threatening him. And
hmm
I remember previously that when they were taking those photos, she had said something like he didn't like photos of himself in the shower. He didn't want that. And so I attributed that to his look on his face, that he wasn't really comfortable. He didn't really want to do that. But when you mentioned that that moment was when she would have snapped a picture and took out the knife, and that was his reaction, like, what? That's that's very haunting.
Yeah, she mentioned that many times. Oh, he wasn't comfortable in the shower. He was very private in the shower. He wasn't comfortable with me taking pictures of him in the shower. But there's, several pictures of him in the shower,
Mm-hmm.
and it's that one, that look on his face. It's almost like a, um, not necessarily shocked or surprised, but kind of confused.
Yeah, it's very faint too. It's
Hmm.
capturing that one moment where it's almost like he has a blank face, but it's faintly like you said,
Like
confused.
dawning on him. Yeah, like
Yeah,
what?
like what?
Hmm.
Like that's I think what the term would be if you had a little thought bubble above him would be what? You know,
Right.
and
Exactly.
yeah, and I think that that's when that happened. That's and when she looked at that particular photo affectionately, when Detective Flores pointed at that, just makes it
Hmm.
even crazier.
She did. You're right.
Yeah.
Um, so marriage, as much as I love Travis, I just have always, there's something inside that says he's not the guy you're going to marry.
So then what was it? What was it that led up to all of this? I mean, there's got to be something. So I honestly don't believe that, that you're cold-hearted and you would just go and just, kill somebody on a whim. That doesn't fit your profile. So what was it that led up to that? You tell me. You tell them. You tell, Travis's family. What was it that, pushed you to your limit? I'm just trying to fill in the holes there, and just kind of guessing about the emotions. What was it that would make you, so angry or upset? And if you're smart, you'll realize that, you're not going to get a whole lot of other chances to do this. Probably none. Once the wheels start turning, they move real fast. And you will be out of control then. You won't have control over your destiny, so to speak. What about your spirituality and your beliefs with God? If you continue to lie to yourself and all of us, that's one thing, but God knows. He knows what's in your heart.
She's like, "Meh, I don't believe that anyway."
Yeah, exactly. She doesn't believe it. If she did, she would be very scared,
Yeah.
or I would think.
Yeah, I would think so too. And it's so crazy too that she's just sitting there as she's being told again for the second day, we know that you did this. There's nothing, she's not shaking her head. She's
Hmm.
not saying, no, I didn't. She's not adamant. She's not slamming her hand on the table. She's not doing anything. She's just sitting there staring. And that gives even more of an indication, I think, that she has something to say. She just isn't saying it.
Oh, absolutely. Imagine if you were there in that position
Mm-hmm.
and you agreed to talk to the detectives without a lawyer. Every single time she said, you did this and you need to explain why and blah blah blah, I would say no, I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't do it. Like,
Yeah.
we're not going to get past that point. You need to understand I did not do this. And
Yeah.
when they don't deny it, it yeah, it makes them look guilty. Absolutely.
Yeah. And the fact that she had emotion with these wedding pictures, but then when it comes to Travis, there's nothing.
Hmm.
She's just sitting there.
Doesn't the Mormon religion want you to repent for what you've done? I'm a spiritual person myself, and I don't think that I would want that, inside of me. I wouldn't want all of the ugliness of the lies inside of me. And I'm not going to sit here all day, and try to convince you to do something for yourself if you're not willing to help yourself. But I just wanted to give you that chance this morning. It's clear is crystal clear to anybody who looks at this case. There is no doubt in my mind, there's no doubt in any of the investigators' mind, that you are the person responsible for Travis's death. It's just a matter of, how do you want to portray yourself now, Jodi? Are you the cold-blooded killer, or are you a victim of circumstance? Was it in the heat of passion, or was it calculated and planned out and executed? Which one is it going to be? That's how you can control things for yourself right now. I don't think you're the type of person that can sit there during a trial and see Travis's family sitting over there and continue to maintain that lie in yourself without it tearing you up.
I don't think I could either.
You have an opportunity. You can't bring him back. You can't bring his life back. But you can at least make things right within yourself. And that ultimately is going to probably help out your situation. Nobody wants to believe, even, your friends, I'm sure. I haven't talked to any of your friends, but I know that your family doesn't want to believe that you're that person. Help them understand what happened and why, so that they're not stuck with that image of you.
The only image they're going to be stuck with is Jodi in a big orange suit.
Yeah, but does Jodi have a heart, or is it cold and ice?
They know it's not what my heart is like. They raised me, and they've lived around me forever.
That's the problem.
Yeah, there wasn't, I think during her trial, there was not one person who would come sort of be like a character witness for her. No one would speak, not even her own mother.
Right. Her mother was there though, right?
She was, yeah, but she didn't want to. She was in the courtroom watching every day, but she didn't want to like speak on Jodi's behalf.
Right. And that at the sentencing, you mean? Or even before that?
At any point
Yeah.
during the trial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what is she going to say?
Well, I think they knew that she would be in big trouble when she had to face the prosecutor,
Yeah.
because he would point out all the times that Jodi's lied, all the times
Mm-hmm.
that she's gotten really angry with her mother and
Mm-hmm.
like been
Screaming.
physical with her.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think there was even an incident where she like kicked her mother once or something. And during Jodi's defense, she talked about how she was like beaten by her mother growing up. Her mother used to carry around a wooden spoon in her purse and beat the children with it.
Jeez. Yeah. Well, that would have been, I mean, facing that prosecutor would be enough to make you think twice, wouldn't it?
Hmm.
In particular,
Yeah,
if you're the
absolutely.
underdog in this situation and you
Hmm.
know that you don't have any leg to stand on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about the rest of the people that just know you as far as an image, that doesn't know you personally? Do you care about that?
I care.
How about Travis's family?
I care very much about Travis's family, and I can't alter the way they think. They hate me regardless.
It's true that their feelings are probably always going to be negative about you. You took their son's life. They can never get over
I
that.
want to take Travis's life.
It's clear to everybody what happened. But I was hoping that you were smart enough to realize the situation, the reality of the situation, and wanted to help yourself out. Whether you want to maintain the charade, which isn't going to get you anywhere, or whether you want to do the right thing. You're the one that's got to live with yourself, you know. You're the one that's got to look those people in the eye.
I have one more question. It's not that I haven't been listening to what you're saying. It's unrelated. But when I took my purse, I had $240 in cash. And from what I understand, this thing over in the jail, you can have money on your books so that you can get things like shampoo or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what I would even need there. But what happens to my cash, my money?
Well, it's, first of all, they count it all out and document it, so there's no question of, you know, what was there. I don't know what the procedure
I know
is.
it's not really, maybe it's not your area or your responsibility, but who do I talk to about that? Because my parents don't have money to just keep doling out and making, like, collect calls there all the time or whatever, so.
Well, I can certainly talk with the detectives and put in a request for you, and I'll do that. I don't go back on my words. And I don't know how much longer, you want to sit here and listen to me talking, but I was hoping to kind of drill something into your head and wake you up and show you how you can help yourself.
Maybe you're giving me more credit than I deserve for being smart,
I don't think
but
so.
I just don't see how any of that could help.
What if it could? Wouldn't you want to do everything you could to help yourself?
I don't. I think that my situation is hopeless, and I don't think that I can help myself.
Don't be sorry to me.
I'm just sorry.
Are you sorry for what happened to him?
Of course I am. That's awful what happened to him.
And she's still sticking with it. That's awful what happened to him, whoever did it.
Yes. I find it so weird that she is going on and on about these things to the detective that the detective clearly doesn't care about. Like the
Right.
cash that was in her purse. Talk to someone at the jail about
Exactly.
that.
Oh, absolutely. And it just goes to show that she wasn't listening to what was
Of-
being said. All these things are flying through her head like, well, what about my money? What about the pictures? What about my camera?
Mhm.
It's just,
Yeah, that's not right. That's not what you're in that room to talk about, Jody.
yeah.
Like, start talking about the crime. It's interesting. Why did she even agree to talk to the detective if she's just going to sit there in silence the whole time?
I don't know. I'm thinking it's possible that she didn't know that it would be Detective Blaney and not Detective Flores
Hmm.
until she got over there. That could be the case. But I also think that Jodi is going to be suffering in silence over there in the jail if she can't
Yeah.
talk. She just wants to keep talking because she thinks that she's smarter than everyone. She can speak well and she can talk people in circles and she can convince them because they're giving her information through these interrogations. They're saying,
Hmm.
what you're doing right now isn't what an innocent person would do. You're not acting right. And so she's thinking, well, what do I need to do to act right? And then she'll do that thing. Like that's when the tears start and all of that. So, they're kind of feeding her this stuff and she's trying to dismantle their story at the same time. I'm not that smart. I'm not organized. Whoever did this
Hmm.
would have to be, and that's not me.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. I think she's using these interrogations as an opportunity to get as much information as she can
Mm-hmm.
about how to behave. But we also see how she really wants to see the pictures of the crime scene.
Yeah.
I think she's trying to pick up as much information as she can to craft her new story around it.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think, again, that you're right. That I think she just wanted a reprieve from sitting in jail. I think she'd rather sit in this room with this detective than sit in jail with
Mm-hmm.
a bunch of other inmates,
Yeah.
just kind of bored to death over there.
Yeah, and at this point she's able to be in their face and at least, like you said, get information to see
Hmm.
what it is that they know, what it is that they see, what is this evidence, because she doesn't really know that yet.
Right.
She's
And
only
I
gotten
do
an
think she,
overview.
yeah, she might have been counting on seeing Detective Flores because I think that she believes she can play him. You know what I mean? She can manipulate him,
Oh, sure.
because she really wants to see those pictures. And then
Mm-hmm.
when she saw that it was Detective Blaney, she's like, oh shit,
Yeah. Oh, it's a
I'm not going to
chick.
have, yeah, this isn't going to work. I
Yeah.
can't flip my hair at her and,
Mm-hmm.
flatter her and be flirty. It's not going to work with her.
Yeah, exactly. She doesn't have my nude photos in a binder.
Right.
I know I can't reach across the table and, and talk suggestively and talk about that commandment that's not in there.
Mm-hmm. Thou shalt
Yeah,
not fornicate.
that's
Yeah.
right.
Detective
That's right.
Blaney's not going to fall for any of those tricks.
Yeah, yeah. So she is very, very different here. And I
Mm-hmm.
think, like we were talking about earlier, that it could very well be just because things are starting to hit her now. She's still trying to have control over the story and saying it wasn't me. It wasn't me. Well, when she does say that, otherwise she just sits there with a blank stare on her face. But when she's denying involvement and so she's still trying to have that part of the story be in effect, but I think she also can see that they're not buying it, that
Mm-hmm.
it's already done and dusted as far as they're concerned.
Well, I feel like with she thinks that with Detective Blaney, it's not even worth trying.
True.
But if it was Detective Flores, she becomes much more animated, much more
Mm-hmm.
talkative.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
So
exactly.
yeah.
He
Did you
didn't
ever
show
think
me any pictures, but he showed me the carpet.
it was pretty horrific?
Travis was very strong. I watched him work out a couple of times. It's super intense. My dad has worked out all my life. He's been a bodybuilder, sort of, not professional. He's just always been really big. And I've seen him work out, but I've never seen anyone work out like Travis. And he's just, a couple times he was really into UFC, and a couple times he would show me some wrestling moves, and I was just powerless. There's no way out of it.
Well, I tell you what, I'm going to take a break for a couple of minutes. I see you still got some water. I was going to give you some more water.
Yeah, if you could bring
Just
one more, that'd be nice.
take a minute just to think about what I said, and I'll leave you alone while I do that.
All right. Well, she's had enough for this round anyway.
Hmm.
Yeah. So there goes Jodi talking about how strong Travis was.
Hmm.
Yeah, it would
Yeah,
be
I was
possible.
powerless.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
That is a huge word. Powerless.
Hmm.
How could little old me subdue a man like that when he works out so intensely? He's so strong.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's a fair question. I think a lot of people looking at the two of them would think, wow, she took him down. But
Mm-hmm.
that leads you to think that she, surprise attacked him.
Yeah.
Like that's the only explanation for that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And certainly with the evidence too that was there.
Hmm.
We're not in that alternate universe where it would have worked out a lot better for Jodi.
Right.
Yeah.
Nope, she definitely left stuff behind.
She sure did. And we will find out more about that next time. So this is going to continue. But for right now, we'll leave it there, and we will see you all next time. Take care.